Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. Y'all know my co-host, John. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Doing good.
And everybody knows Jimmy. Jimmy, how you doing, man?
Very good, very good. Thank you.
So tonight is question and answers, and I would like to first apologize. We did not start at 7 o'clock due to the fact that the fiber cables in our podcast area was completely cut, so we had to move to a different location. So we are on, and which is great. We're about an hour late, but I want to go ahead and Jimmy. Tonight with question and answers, I'm going to have a couple questions for you. But
Okay.
first, kind of give everybody a little bit about what you do, and then talk some about the research that is going on with Nova. So let's go ahead and hit that real good.
All right, very good. I'm a veteran of Desert Shield, Desert Storm, 1990, 1991, Persian Gulf War, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. As veterans, that we are seeking help from the Veterans Health Administration. Always self-identify every single time, even if you're looking at that same clinician over and over again, same nurse, same doctor. Always remind them who you are, where you came from. Today, I work for Nova Southeastern University Institute of Neuroimmune Medicine. I've actually been there 7 years. I volunteered for 2, and then Dr. Nancy Klimas brought me on for the past 5 part-time. So I work part-time there. And what I do is outreach and recruitment. So I outreach to you, the Persian Gulf War veteran. And for those that are motivated to volunteer to participate in research, that's clinical research, Gulf War illness research, then I help you on board, help answer questions. I can do an added layer in how to square up on the bigger picture, say like the VA bigger picture, the research bigger picture, so I can add value as a veteran, as a Persian Gulf War veteran. We're researching. John and I were briefly talking about this earlier, but we have 2 decentralized trials. The word decentralized just means that you can participate in these clinical trials from your hometown. You go to your phlebotomist there. One of them is Quest. That's where you would have the blood draws done. And we send you all of the nutraceuticals that we're using for the research. And you answer survey questions online to help us understand how you're feeling. And then we're helping the University of Alabama, Birmingham. They have they have a research program. It's called the Botanicals, and that's curcumin, resveratrol, and a nutraceutical called stinging nettle. The other 2 that we're doing at Nova are Bacopa, which is again it's a powerful nutraceutical, and N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, November Alpha Charlie, NAC. The big focus for the community, the research community today, is mitochondrial dysfunction. Remember, the mitochondria in our body are basically the battery cells in our body, and oxidative stress, this injury, this damage from this multiple exposures in our war. That's the center of gravity of where the majority of the researchers are looking. And that's about it.
That's awesome, and they can do it right from the house, and we'll put links up
Okay.
in the next day or two. But I want to kind of go into a little bit of questions and answers. But before I do that, I want to say this beginning of the show. Our hearts go out to all the families suffering from the Hurricane Helena, especially North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. You guys, man, I couldn't imagine what y'all are going through. And I really hope that y'all get help soon. And, y'all are in our prayers. I definitely wanted to say that. And I mean, that it was devastating. And this kind of leads to where one of the questions, if you have an emergency, and that's me and the guy were talking about this today. He goes, one of the best questions you can really ask is, in emergency time, what does a vet do? Like up in North Carolina, because no mailboxes, can't get mail, nothing can come through. The best thing to do is to call the 1-800-827-1000, let them know you're in a disaster area. Tell them what's going on if you lost everything. and kind of and the VA can help you along because during our hurricane we had down here, a lot of guys were able to get a lot more help calling the VA down in Houston, believe it or not, because my area was hit worse than what Houston was. I can't explain it. The eye went over us, and these guys were able to go down and get their refills redone. So it was fantastic what the VA did. Now the other thing is too is there needs to be a lot more outreach programs, for veterans, because a lot of these people do live in rural areas. They drive 2.5 hours to most VA hospitals. Everybody should know if you look at John. John, you drive what, an hour and a half?
If I want to go to the main VA, I got to drive an hour and a half. They got a
Right.
CBOC. It's about 45 minutes from me. So yeah.
Okay. And so one of the reasons I brought Jimmy on, because Jimmy, he does a lot of stuff with RAC. He goes to all these meetings. He does the research. It's kind of like Wade. And this is one thing I'm going to tell everybody. Why is it important for research? I didn't think about this until about 5 days ago. If it wasn't for research, Wade would not be alive today. He was, 6 months to a year that he was supposed to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
They told him that if he didn't quit drinking, he was definitely going to die within 6 months, but now he only had about a year to live anyway. And I mean, I remember Wade called me, and I'm throwing Wade under the bus. He's not here. But what Wade went through, I don't know what happened. A light bulb clicked in his head, and now I'm hoping a light bulb will click in most veterans' head. I've seen a complete 360 on Wade. Me and John were talking about this earlier today. He started going to all the researching, with Nova. Everywhere. Wade has done all the researching. Wade has changed his eating habits, his exercising. He researches. There is medicine out there that can help us. Cure us? Never. Help us? Yes. And we just got to figure out which one it is. So that's why research is important. And I thought, if a lot of y'all don't know Wade, his last name is Renard. And so y'all can find him on Facebook if y'all have questions. And I know a lot of guys struggle with drinking, drugs, all kinds of stuff. A lot of us vets do. We struggle with addiction. I dip. It's still an addiction. But there's all types of addictions out there that if y'all struggle, y'all need to talk to Wade. Wade can tell y'all exactly how he did it. I bless his heart, I don't know how he did it. I just know he poured all the alcohol out, and he decided he was going to get better, exercise, eating better. And if anybody has questions, y'all please, right over here. Jason, he's doing CoC10 next. And so anything that we can do to help each other out, figure things out as veterans is the best. Not even veterans, human beings. I mean, Jimmy, how many people do you know, and John, how many people do you know have mitochondria problems? A lot.
A lot. Chronic fatigue syndrome, so myalgic encephalitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, although it is one of the presumptives in Gulf War illness, we're now seeing that in long COVID and a lot of other neurological type conditions. It's coming up more and more, whereas now chronic fatigue syndrome, in some research cases, non-Gulf War illness related, they're taking that up very seriously and advancing chronic fatigue syndrome to another level. But yes,
exactly, and you're right about that. Chronic fatigue is huge, and so when I do the patches and stuff like that, that helped for a while. But after a while, I felt like it kind of weighed off. But at least I got 6 months out of it. I kind of plateaued on it. But I know people who are still taking them and say they still feel better. And I do believe if you start a medicine or a vitamin or an herb, you stay on it. You don't quit. It's not going to work overnight. With anything you do, it's not going to work overnight.
Well, and a lot of it, as Wade shared with us, and you kind of got to learn as you go. He shared with us what he's learned, the eating habits and what's in our foods that we eat. That plays a huge part in it. Like Wade said before, we can't blame everything that's going on with us on Gulf War. That just isn't, that's the false statement, because we're all getting older. As you get older, your body declines. But you have to treat your body the best you can. And that has to do with eating habits and understanding. The key thing is understanding what it is you are eating and what it does to your body. And then use the things like what Wade, and Jimmy's research group, they share with you the information that they gathered. And because there's a lot that goes in. There's, like you said, Kevin, we're not going to find a cure per se.
Right.
What we do is do this, treat your body right, try and do the level best you can. And it's a struggle for all of us, each and every one of us. It's a little bit different type of struggle, if that makes sense.
No, I totally
It's not.
agree. I 110% agree with that, John. And that's where it's going to lead where another struggle that I have really been struggling a lot with lately. And this is going to be a question for everybody out there. So when I listen to Rack, when we get on to listening to Rack, and a lot of people, and I'm not going to be here throwing Rack under the bus because, they just take the information up to the VA. I think steps can be done differently in Rack. I would do differently than what they're doing. But one thing about it is with Rack, there's a lot of confusion. A lot. People can listen to them, and you're telling their problems. The first time I listened to Rack, I decided I wanted to jump in and put my 2 cents worth in. And I told him I had neuropathy. The first thing that doctor told me was, "I'm sorry, Mr. Simon, but there's nothing we can do for neuropathy. My husband had cancer. He has neuropathy. There's no cure for it. Nothing that they can do." That's not what vets need to hear. Okay? You still have to have hope in this world. Without hope, you have nothing.
Exactly.
And so with Rack, this is how I would do different. And I'm going to ask Jimmy's opinion on this and tell me if he thinks I'm right. I'm not going to say this should come on show, even though I said it 500 million times. But what I would do differently is I would have an open forum with not just a Zoom call. I would make it stream on every platform across the country. YouTube, Facebook, even TikTok, everywhere where people can start understanding what Gulf War illness is. And so if you take just a little bit of that information, because when you have a Zoom and just send it to a few people and say, send this out to them, send it out to them, word of mouth is great. But there's a lot of people that don't, unless they see it, they don't do it. And so they can streamline on every platform, which that's what we're about to be doing in the next month. We're going to start streaming on every platform out there because that's how you get the word out. And you don't have a meeting once every quarter. You have a meeting once a month with the vets. I believe that would help a lot of veterans out there to start understanding more that you're not alone. Because sometimes when, Jason, I'm throwing you under the bus. When Jason gets on there, they're talking, but I don't think they're paying attention. He's asking for help. And just like I would say for anybody else like myself who gets on there, and all they hear is, yeah, we'll take this notes and we'll bring this to Congress or up to the head VA and they'll bring it over to congressional hearing. They need to do more better. They need to organize more veterans to do more stuff like they used to do. When all the guys back in the 1990s who really got this going. What would you add to it, Jimmy?
Kevin, that's amazing. I just have to say, one, it's freaking amazing. Number two, thank you. And darn it, if this Navy veteran really gives a darn. But man, kudos to you, sir. 100%. Let's go back to first principles. What is the RAC? RAC is Research Advisory Committee for Gulf War Veteran Illness. It's a committee that was chartered by the Veterans Administration. Remember, Research Advisory Committee for Gulf War Veteran Illness is a VA program. It's a panel of professionals. There's doctors on there. There's a president, a brand new president. Tom Mathers is the new president on there. They've refreshed their lineup. They've had people rotate, so people rotated off, and new people rotating it on. The new folks that are coming on, like Tom Smathers and a few others, this has just happened since the last RAC in Research Advisory Committee for Gulf War Veteran Illness in Colorado. So you have new, fresh folks coming in, and their motivation, their vision is exactly what Kevin's laying out. It got stuck. It got stuck there over the times, and COVID got eaten up on, and they kind of lost their vision a bit. But I believe it's coming back. It really is, and I like your multimedia approach. That's very powerful. I have no problem in sharing that idea with them. But they've also been grappling with, how do we redo this RAC? How do we redo it? How do we become successful in the veteran's eyes? Because we're the patient. We can certainly help. Now, to be fair, sometimes the platform is misused, but it's misused because that's what it gets for not controlling the platform. So I'll just say that right up front. And
I
when
agree.
we get that thing back, let's make it productive. Now, to finish out the idea of the Research Advisory Committee for Gulf War Veteran Illness, the idea is the committee takes our concerns. These are clinical concerns. These can be compensation and pay concerns. They can be the bigger picture of the experience of the Persian Gulf War veteran with Gulf War illness or chronic multi-symptom illnesses. So I just want to I want to illuminate that when you walk into the VA is going to prefer, that's a Veterans Health Administration, VA. They're kind of in the ballpark of chronic multi-symptom illnesses, but it is synonymous, and it means the same freaking thing as Gulf War illness. Those two things are the same, but we keep playing with names. And I'll give you an example. Remember Gulf War syndrome? Where the hell did that go? So we've got to be on our game. We've got to watch these little trends. But the RAC is a significant tool for us. And the idea is that when they gather that information from us, they're supposed to shack that up in a message. And they take that message to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs, Secretary McDonough gets those. And then his team and his staff up there then are supposed to take it apart and then act on those things, establish a criteria, and work through the challenges. Now, are they going to take 100 things? No. They're going to take 30 things. I haven't seen it, but if they can get together top 3 topics, like, for example, multi-generational issues, those are our children. That's a hot one. What about this argument about, is it anthrax? Is it, kind of help us, give us feedback. What's going on? Because we see, the very RAC themselves introduced, Dr. Galapagos introduced, and that's not his name, but it's something close to that. He introduced anthrax as a potential cause to Gulf War illness. Dr. John Haley, back a few months ago, introduced sarin as a potential cause of Gulf War illness. So that's all of these varying hypotheses are confusing to us. Not that we're trying to become scientists at it, but we're just trying to understand, man. Help me understand. It's been 33 freaking years. Help us out. Make that tool effective.
And here's another thing. I think RAC needs to also invite congressmen to sit down at one of the meetings and listen to the vet's concern. the guys at RAC should ask anybody from the Hill that wants to come sit in and listen. That too may make a difference, because believe it or not, they can literally at least request for them to come, or at least watch it. One of the two. They can send emails out and say, hey, you know what? We're requesting each and every one of y'all who wants to come listen to the veterans here. It's going to stream on these platforms, and listen to them and understand, and maybe we can get another talk going, with committees. And, it's not just for us, it's also for kids. I mean, for me, I feel like it's too late. For me, I don't think it's too late for my children. And so, that's how I'm going about it. I want to help my kids out. And I know that we also need to start getting the politicians more involved in these RAC meetings, because without the politicians, we're not going to get anything through. Without them, we're not. I mean, when the PACT Act was done, Jon Stewart was the biggest voice mostly. I mean, there were a lot of hands playing in that, but he was the voice for the people. And so even if we were able to get a celebrity to come in and listen, I mean, somebody like Jon Stewart, bring Jon Stewart back, let him listen, let him go on. And I mean, we need to get all the research doctors, to be able to come in and put their 2 cents worth, with Dr. Glum, all the NOVA researchers, Alabama, Washington, everybody who's doing research, and say, this is what we found so far, but we need more help. And so
we need to, staying away from the hearsay, or getting very, like, I think Jimmy, one time when we had you on last time, Jimmy, I think one of the things is we have to be very strategic in the approach. You got to be lock and loaded, understand what's going to be said, how it's going to be said, the terminology that's we're using, the facts versus, we can't go in there and, a bunch of hearsay and argumentative and all that. You got to go down, nice and easy with a large group of people that's organized and understand what needs to be going. I have to agree with Kevin. I don't think that anything at our age, at the age of 50 plus, even, a little less, likelihood of us surviving and getting things taken care of is unlikely, in my opinion. But here again, for our children, perhaps if you're married at the time and your wife or your spouse is dealing with things, you got to do it for them, because we're the men and women at the forefront, because guess what's right behind us? 20 years of war, Afghan, the veterans of that war are going to come in right after we're done and start to realize that, hey, wait,
right.
What's going on with us? So we have to set the platform and set it well. We got to concrete it in, because you go in and you can't be walking in slush. It's got to be solid.
That's a great point, John. And that's true. Because I was reading some of the comments, and I mean, we can't go in and demand a committee hearing. We can't go. We just can't. That's not what they're going to do. The only way we're going to do this is to form as a group, and that's really the truth. I mean, and it's not just going to be the Desert Storm vets by themselves. We're a small group.
No.
We need Iraqi freedom vets. We need Afghanistan vets. We need veterans from all over to speak loud about. We want to know what Vietnam went through. Okay, now we want to know what Desert Storm went through, and what Iraqi freedom guys went through, and what Afghanistan guys go through. But we want to, not lump it into one, but let everybody's, voice be heard by that, because the more vets you get on the team, the more you're going to get hurt. I mean, RAC, it's small. How many people did join the last meeting? How many people?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
participation in
participation.
yeah, I understand actually in the room in Colorado there was only one person in the room, and that was Denise Nichols. She was
Okay.
the she was the only person in the room. Well, I went to the one in Tampa, since Florida. There were in the two sessions, both sessions together, we may have gotten up to maybe 6 veterans. And in the room, by the way, was a compensation. There were four compensation and pay professionals. Two that were from the Tampa VA, and one was from the Bay Pines VA. He was an official that came down with his computer, and he popped open his computer, connected to his network, and he was able to review your compensation and pay case in the room. Go to the back, get in
Right,
line. They
right.
got in line. I mean, it's done right, but that's just it. I
I
believe that the track record of the research advisory committee for Gulf War veteran illness has not been that good.
I can
So
tell you why.
program wise, so and I mean, folks are busy working, hustling,
There
whatever,
you
doing
go. You
everything.
just said it, Jimmy. They do it in the middle of the damn day. Number one,
Yeah,
you should be doing it at 6 o'clock in the evening time. And
yeah,
are really 7 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. Or you go mountain time, split it right down the middle, because the most people that listen are going to be in the evening times. And you don't do it on a prime time presidential debate. You don't do it on Monday night football games. You do it like on a Thursday, well, not Thursday night neither, because go for side effects, but you do it like a Wednesday. You do it like a Wednesday evening, and because that way more vets are at home during the evening than they are during the day. Most people are on their phones listening. I mean, let me tell you something. Alone, we have 26,000 followers. Well, 27,000 followers now on TikTok. If they would start one up with, did a platform where that they could be on everything, they would be surprised how many people would start joining, and people would start demanding. I mean, the squeaky wheel gets the
yeah,
shit done.
It's
yeah,
grease.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
true, and that's the problem to me with RAC is they do it at 12 o'clock, and then next day at 2 o'clock. Then you have to submit your questions in beforehand. You know what? You shouldn't have to submit your questions in. You should be able to ask your questions. 5 minutes, stop it, and get with it. Don't let it go to a 10-minute period. Don't let it go to this. And you get through everybody's questions, everybody who has questions. And they should bring the Gulf War babies involved in this too, because they're just as much affected as we are. Soon, it seems like when we came home, we spread this throughout the whole world. It does seem like that.
Well, be careful, because this is not a cold.
No, no, no,
You
it's
know,
not. It's to
it's
me, it's not an illness. It's. I mean, I would make it more a syndrome than it would be an illness, but I
well, that's
make
what
it
it
more.
was a
It's
sin.
a side effect. Something we got over there created this. A illness didn't create this. Uh, uh,
Well, then how would you square on?
Go for it.
Well, let's play that out a little bit.
Let's play it out.
Let,
I'm with you.
let's say anthrax,
Okay.
the vaccination, anthrax, that inoculation. Let's just say that for those veterans that were genetically susceptible to the anthrax antigens, um, developed what is the modern day Gulf War illness. What if?
Right. Right. Right.
I mean, see, and we got to be careful there. It's kind of like
Well, I mean,
the train.
but that's very true. But our kids, it seems like we genetically passed it down to them. So it's like almost getting into a bioweapon. And
Yeah,
if you really think about what we talked about. Oh, who was the doctor? me, you, and Wade talked about it.
Dr. Nicholson?
Nicholson. Dr. Nicholson also believes, I mean, it wasn't just chemicals, it was bioweapons too that was done out there. And so it's just such a big mixture of a bunch of crap. But we also need the DOD to release more information. And I mean, come on, 30 something years later, and come on.
33. And that's, and I think what we underline there is the medicine has to catch up to the point where we can start going multi-generational. However, that's not to stop us with putting together that message, that our concern that's going up to the Secretary of the VA, that multi-generational continues to come up as a deep concern of ours. And if you said, I'm going to give you 3 things to bring to the rack, and you said, no, I want to bring one. And I want that to go to the Secretary of the VA. And then by the time the next rack comes around, we'd like to hear a formulation of a plan, more than just some other agenda, just like freaking goes into La La Land. But that's something we can get behind. And I'm working on the messaging, because again, now we're talking about here is that left the research world a little bit. And we're talking about just making the Veterans Administration a better place, but not just the Veterans Administration, because these ideas are much larger than, I believe, than even the leadership at the VA. And it would include the DOD. The DOD is fully involved as well. You know, the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program has been putting $30 million of research money into the Nicholsons, the Gullums, the Youngers, the Climas, the Haleys. Those are our educational institution-based researchers that have been funded by the DOD. The challenge is that these phase 1 studies have been put on the shelf, so to speak, and they haven't evolved to phase 2. They're just sitting out there. And I believe that this is coming, it's going to come about, will come about. Also, another VA entity that you mentioned earlier, Kevin, is the War-Related Illness and Injury Study Center. There are 3. There's DC, there's New Jersey, and there's Palo Alto. Those 3 locations. They're now doing telephone screenings, but it's always good to include them because they are also War-Related Illness and Injury SC Study Center. So that's a validation, if you will, clinical validation that may also be fed back to Secretary McDonough at the top of the VA. So this is kind of like checks and balances. But we have to continue, like you said, Kevin, you have to continue to stay active across all stakeholders.
I agree with that.
We can't pick on just pick on is not the right idea. The rack has shown us over the years that they cannot carry the weight. They can't carry this weight. It blows their mind almost, so to speak, in that why can't you carry a message? And I have to say that there's so much distraction in those veteran engagement sessions. People getting on the chats and just talking shit for an hour and just bringing up these conspiracy theories. Yeah, they may be conspiracy theories, but that's not going to get your multi-generational argument looked at.
You have to go in. You have to go in. What is it that we, the veterans who are dealing with this right now, what is it that we want to happen? What is our end game? What is it that we're asking to happen? What do we want? Do we want it fixed? Of course we want it fixed. Is that going to happen? No. Probably not.
Well,
so we have to have a plan A, plan B, plan C. What is it that you're asking us to do? Period.
And well, be careful with fix, because it's not a broken car. We want intervention, and right. Intervention may focus on quality of life and helping us deal with life day to day. But remember that what would be helpful, and there's already modalities out there like whole health and complementary alternative medicine, for example. That's another one. That's Tai Chi, acupuncture, diet, dietary professional on that team. And I realize there's probably a bunch of veterans going, Jimmy, we don't have that. We don't have that at my CBOC. We don't have that at our healthcare center. I get that. The challenge there is not all VAs offer the same stuff, the same services.
There you go.
They don't. I get tomorrow morning. I'm in Tai Chi for an hour, and people look at me. Well, Jimmy, what's Tai Chi? What's that? It's just stretching. It's just stretching right here where I'm standing right now. Right here, I would do stretching. What's the big deal? Well, you know what? It helps me with my fibromyalgia. Remember, fibromyalgia is one of the presumptives. Remember, chronic fatigue syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, or any functional gastrointestinal problem, and fibromyalgia pain. It helps ever so slight. I get a day's relief of it before all the pain comes back, but it helps. But it's going back to those are first principles. Just first principles is to answer your question directly, John. And I've asked the Research Advisory Committee for Gulf War Veteran Illness, look, we know your challenge. Here's one thing that you can bring to us. Remember the ICD? Just do that. Get us the ICD for Gulf War illness. That's that code that identifies Gulf War illness as a unique illness, and it's now becomes part of the Veterans Health Administration coding. So that now when a veteran walks through the door and says, look, doc, I was reading the website, va.gov website, and it talked about the presumptives for Gulf War illness. And I kind of resonating with that. That's kind of I feel that. I've been having the brain fog, the pain, screwed up stomach, and doc, I can't help but to think, they've identified chronic multi-symptom illnesses and Gulf War illness as a potential problem of mine. Right there, hard stop. The doc should stop talking right there and say, oh, right, thank you for sharing that with me. I am going to send you specialty care. What specialty care? I'm going to do every one of them: neurology, gastroenterology, rheumatology, pulmonary. And since I'm there, I'm going to go ahead and send you to an environmental health coordinator. It's supposed to be doing stuff with environmental toxicants. Again, you might have an environmental health coordinator out here in the East Coast. It's available to you in say, Atlanta, at the VA in Atlanta, but not up in North Dakota, not in maybe not even in Texas, and some of the CBOCs around Texas or Ohio, or how about South Dakota? What about Central or Northern California? It's just the VA is really, really trying. But let's go back to all the stakeholders get energized. That's CDMRP, Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program. That's the Department of Defense, the Research Advisory Committee for Gulf War Veteran Illness, the RISC, War-Related Illness and Injury Study Center. I would like that group to be presenting at these sessions, and then take all of this research that's been conducted by Educational-Based Research Institute, pick those that are most applicable, and move them up into phase 2. Because
I agree with that. I mean, you're right. There needs to be phases, and I mean, all this sounds good. They just need to sit down and really, really, really need to start thinking about how do we reach these vets more. And I mean, advertising it on Facebook is not just enough alone anymore. It's really not, because there's a lot of older men that don't have Facebook. There's a lot of, most of them have TikTok. I'd say.
Well, let's just take a quick step back. Remember how HIPAA and regulatory and ethics work in the Veterans Administration? We, the veteran, must opt in.
Right.
This is why research is so difficult.
It's true.
Just think. What if I go to the, to the data center? There's a DoD data center, and say I want a list of 700,000 that are still walking this earth that deployed to the Persian Gulf War, and then get their emails, phone numbers, best email, best phone number, best address, and blast them all messages. That is HIPAA. That is a HIPAA violation.
I know.
We can't reach out.
But that's what I'm saying. One of the best ways of advertising is, man, run a TV ad. Spend time for a TV ad on every major news network. If you're a Gulf War, vet, blah blah blah.
Yeah, that costs money, and we've done it. We've done it at Nova, Kevin. We've
Right,
actually
right. Y'all
know,
put up billboards, y'all put up this, but they need to do it nationwide. Because us old guys watch the news. I hate to say it. It doesn't matter. They'll watch Fox News, MSNBC, CBS, CNN. I mean, these old people watch, you know. And
yeah,
I mean, I'm one of them. I watch the news, and I'm starting to see.
I do too.
And I literally just saw everybody. I saw a commercial today. Please sign up for the VA healthcare. I was like, son of a bitch. I've been saying that. Why don't you just run a damn TV ad? I sent that to almost every senator. Just run a freaking TV ad. You'll get more people to sign up. And see, and that's the one thing I will say. I've had Dr. Nicholson, Dr. Glom, I've had, I want Nova researchers on here. I want any researcher to come on, because after what Wade experienced and what Wade has done, Wade has shown me that going out and doing your best has made his life improve tremendously. And so,
Great point.
and that's important. Everybody has studies going on, and I know everybody puts them out there. I know vets are tired of it, but if you give up, you might as well lay in bed and just quit, because not everybody's going to go out and do it for you. I mean,
Right.
we had the big group in the 90s do it for us. Although I didn't watch C-SPAN, I had no idea how many videos on that were on C-SPAN. And so, and that's why I'm reaching out to everybody today, and that's why I brought Jimmy on, is to get with these researchers. Start doing, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your kids. And I mean, I think it's very important for each and every one of us. And just to let y'all know, September the 24th, I believe that's a Thursday, October the 24th. Y'all are going to want to set that date, because we are going to bring up some of the biggest controversial crap that needs to be said on this. And this is going to go out to, this has nothing to do with Gulf War groups, guys. This has to do with VSOs, DAV, organizations all across the United States. Well, it's time we're going to start exposing some of them, and we're going to call their bullshit out. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, after what I showed John, I got a hold of some other groups and everything. This stuff is literally going to fire your ass up, what people are out there doing now to scam a vet. And so that's going to come up. Yeah, it's October the 24th. We're going to highlight some groups out there that need to be really highlighted, because they really, what this did is just absolutely disgusting. And it has nothing to do with veteran groups as far as Gulf War vets, Iraqi vets, Afghanistan vets. These are groups out there trying to expose, to rip us off. And so that's the best way I can put it, because it's going to be a dialogue. And we're going to have some angry people after this show, because it is ridiculous. Jimmy, thanks for coming on tonight. And Jimmy's we'll put the links down for Nova underneath this. And because we need more people for research. Y'all go do researching everywhere, man. You got them in Washington, D.C., California, Dr. Glum, Nova. Everybody needs to do their part in getting stuff done. And if you want to get a hold of me, and I've been getting a lot of good emails lately, I want to thank y'all very much for that. It's at kevinsimon@goforcesideffects.com. We're on Patreon now. We're on YouTube. Y'all go YouTube, subscribe, share. And let y'all know, soon we're going to be streamlining on every platform I can streamline on. Me and John are, and with the producer. And so I want y'all to have a good night, and we're going to go to the after show. Thank you.
Thank you.